the Mother of God.
So Resident Evil 7 has finally arrived, and my expectations have been all over the place. When the initial demo dropped, it was like 5 minutes long, had a finger that didn't do anything besides tickle your prostate and raise endless questions in which Capcom gave very vague answers to these questions. It sparked the Sherlock Holmes in the minds of people playing. The day it came out, I was right there with everybody else trying to crack the Resident Evil 7 demo. But it was scrubbed clean and nothing was found. And that's about the time my hype just completely fucking died. But as time passed and more kind of started trickling out, I don't know, I was kind of at a loss at what to think. But then the fucking demo dropped, like the final demo dropped like a month before it came out. And just full hype ahead, baby. Coming from the updated demo, I was ready as fuck for Resident Evil 7, which dropped on January 24th this year. Let's answer the big question in the room for you impatient fucks. Resident Evil 7 is darn good. I most definitely have my grievances with it, which I'll get into later. But overall, the verdict is, hey, it's pretty dang good. Everybody else here along for the trip, pull down the safety guard and lock in. I'm taking you for a ride. No! We'll start with what I really like about the game. Well, the biggest key is the fact that it is a genuine, true-to-form survival horror game. No caveats, no asterisks, no mumbo-jumbo, clear-cut survival horror. The one thing everyone has wanted has finally arrived. Sure, in a different perspective and a fancy new coat of paint, but here it is. Most of what makes a survival horror game is the way that it plays. So let's talk about that part, because quite frankly, it's what the game excels at. There is not one detail missed when it comes to how the game plays. The movement is a literal translation of tank controls into first person. Moving any direction other than forward is slow as hell, forcing you to turn in the direction you want to go. There's a slight delay from when you aim your weapon and when you go to run. The movement is spot on. Shit, they even have a quick turn.
Yeah, I have a mouse.
The level design is that all too familiar spooky labyrinth of a mansion, and is excellent. I mean, it's pretty much the same mansion layout Capcom has been using since 1996, but yeah, it's nice. The Metroid-style backtracking has returned, along with locked doors with highly specific keys. Item management also returns, and it's like seeing an old friend again. Hey, how you doing, bud? You get more slots than usual right from the very start, but there is more common items you end up having to carry, so it does balance out quite nicely. The combat. Oh man, the combat! The combat is just fucking, oh my god! I really thought Alien Isolation pulled off the FPS survival horror combat, and it did, but not to the fucking level of Resident Evil 7. Enemies take 5 to 7 bullets and require headshots in order to get that 5 to 7 shot kill. There's a "please don't hurt me" button that reduces damage, much like Silent Hill 3, which does survival horror combat just flawlessly. With this being a first-person shooter, giving you the ability to selectively aim your target, they had to make the enemies kind of hard to hit, because if they walk straight at you, shooting them in the face wouldn't be too hard. Now, I don't know how they did it, but the lumpy movements of the monsters make them menacing and slow, but still fucking hard to shoot. But just like a true survival horror game, running past enemies is always a good option. Like seriously, running past shit is an option that's viable again. The best part is how unreinforced it is. You get so focused on trying to shoot shit in the face, you almost don't realize you can just whip right around them. Ammo is scarce, but only if you make it. On normal it wasn't too bad, but on any difficulty ammo is scarce if you don't look carefully. They also bring crafting to the table and is handled well. Simple and out of the way. Crafting makes the game even easier because, I mean, you literally make all of the bullets. I think the crafting fits though. Like Resident Evil 3, there's a bit more focus on the action side of things, so the crafting fits fine. There is a light stealth element that isn't important enough to ruffle my jimmies, but even then it's still pretty easy. I won't complain. I'm not a huge fan of playing hide and go seek in horror games. Every enemy is practically seen with a 5-second delay. The only chance of being caught is if you look them directly in the eyes. The game mechanics are fucking tight, my boy! The last main thing I want to touch on in terms of gameplay are the puzzles. They're actually kind of a step down, I felt. Most of them were these really easy shadow shape matching puzzles which take a total of 10 seconds to solve. I say step down, but I mean it just very slightly. They're not far off of Resident Evil Remake, but it definitely felt a little too easy for my big man brain. I mean, I can keep droning on about the gameplay, but it's just gonna be me making word salad that equates to it's literally survival horror. The gameplay and combat are just fucking spot on. And the best part is it really brings out that self-challenging part of me that a good survival horror game does. Take Remake, for example. Not super tough until you start doing all the crazy shit to add on top of it, like beating it in under like fucking 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever it is. Or just not using it like any first aid sprays, only green herbs, shit like that. In this game, whew, it fucking brought it out, baby.
Let's talk about how Resident Evil 7 looks on my glasses.
Oh, man. It just looks fucking stellar. Capcom crafted a whole new engine for Resident Evil 7, and man, so far, it seems fucking promising. The lighting and shadows are excellent and reminds me exactly of Evil Within. Actually, I don't know if anyone else noticed, but these games feel really similar.
But that's neither here nor there.
The game boasts damn good performance across every platform. I will say the PC suffers from massive stuttering issues for some, myself included. The game sometimes just shits the bed and gets hit hard with stutters. I'm talking like 1 to 2 second freezes. The PS4 is probably your safest bet at the moment. Plus, that has the VR support, so you never know, maybe in the future. You never know. Anyway, the way the light reflects off of surfaces really gives the game a very realistic feeling. The subsurface scattering effect makes everyone's skin look hyper-realistic and disgusting. Character models look good, minus the facial animation, which is a huge bummer. The faces look uncannily real, but the very janky facial animation helps save me from the uncanny valley. This is not a good thing. The textures look kind of muddled in most places, but overall are totally acceptable. Where this game really shines are the environments. I have to say, when I played the demo, I saw some Louisiana backwoods house, and I fucking loved it. In the full game, it gets even better. I can't say I'd ever considered the Louisiana Bayou as a prime setting for a Resident Evil game, but holy fuck, I couldn't be happier. The best way to describe how it looks is that it's Resident Evil Remake in real time. In Louisiana. The house is meticulously detailed to give this look of neglect and squalor that really immerses you
Balls deep.
Just look at this basement. This is a fucking Resident Evil basement. Visually, it fits perfectly in with the past games. My biggest complaint is that I'll literally never see this game in VR. I doubt it would improve that much, but it seems like it'd be dope as hell. Atmospherically, it's just fucking, with the highly detailed environments, there's just this dirty, greasy, thick atmosphere that is omnipresent. The volumetric lighting really takes a lot of the areas to a whole new level. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Strewn throughout this super detailed mansion is a bunch of fan service. I'd say it bothered me, but it was such a mix of subtle and not so subtle nods to the past games, I didn't really mind it much. Some of the less prominent ones were nice, but others were like as loud as flashing the impact text of
Resident Evil
on the screen. They were fine though, I guess. The visuals and gameplay are just excellent. But how does the story hold up in a game where the series it's a part of is known for anything but the stories? Well, let's just say the story is a bit of a weird beast. It's definitely a step up from past efforts, but it's nothing to write home about. I think my biggest gripe with it is just very stock. It's nothing exciting, really. It's nothing fresh. There's nothing new about it. But not all is lost, though. The pacing, just excellent. Not a single dull moment the entire game. But it's story time. Put your waders on, boy. I'm taking you for a ride. Starting off with some white girl's video message to her husband about some babysitting shit I don't give a fuck about. Jeez, Capcom, if I want to listen to a girl tell me about her boring day, I talk to my girlfriend.
By girlfriend, do you mean that piece of rabbit fur you rub on your dick every night?
Yeah, You then get another message of her saying shit's all fucked and to stay away. So Ethan gets a different message from his wife, Mia, that girl we just saw, that's been missing for 3 years, and she says she wants him to come get her. Being a human being, Ethan decides, yeah, I'll try and see if my wife that's been missing for 3 years is still alive. Upon arrival, you investigate the house and bump into your wife locked in some dank sex dungeon. She wakes up and starts saying shit about Daddy's coming, and I mean, I was joking about the sex dungeon thing a second ago, but what the fuck is this? So after meeting up with your wife, you both attempt to escape till she finds you left the toilet seat up and she starts freaking the fuck out. You give her the axe and you get a phone call from a mysterious southern girl.
Hey, baby, you wanna get your cornhole licked?
Hell of a girl.
Ethan scurries along and oh, fuck my hand! You fight with your bitch of a wife and get fammed.
Welcome to the family, son.
Ethan wakes up to the dinner scene from Leatherface and manages not to shit his pants. Your main objective is to create a cure and find Mia, but the pesky fam really makes that a hassle. So you go through ripping some chainsaws through some faces, burning some buggy twats, and outsmarting this fucking dingleberry. Once you get both pieces to make a cure, you find Mia and Zoe, and then Jack attacks. You finally fuck this dickhead up that's been busting your balls the entire game. And by fuck up, I mean cure. This leads to the fucking tease of a multiple ending where you have to choose who to cure. After you choose which lucky lady is getting
Fucking slammed in their hole.
you then ride the boat to safety for about 20 seconds before you get attacked by the mold. It then cuts to Mia in the shipwreck, even if you picked Zoe, which you know, because fuck you. During a look into the past, the main villain reveals herself as this little girl. That's this old lady that's been everywhere. What a twist. Turns out Mia's babysitting job was to guard this little girl that has some crazy E-virus that she can use to infect people's minds, which was this little old lady, after all. It's almost like I didn't see it coming. I saw it coming. All this girl wanted was a family, and it's Capcom's
Very political, firm stance on the nuclear family and how it's tearing our country asunder, folks. I'm not kidding.
So you take her DNA and formulate this neurotoxin, stab it right into her neck, and she melts, and oh God! You guys almost had me disturbed, but then she said that. You shoot the Resident Evil 2 wall boss reference till it decides to piss off for a split, and you shoot it again, and it dies. It literally beats itself. Then this army guy comes up, and it's Chris Redfield! No! Ugh. Guys, I think it's time to stop trying to tie this together. You literally could just make this more of a reboot and start fresh. I mean, it pretty much is a standalone title, but this little end bit is just lame. Chris shows up because fuck all reasons, sounding like the fucking gas station guy from Family Guy.
I'm Redfield. I'm glad we found you.
Meg, clean up aisle 2.
And I do apologize for having to bring up Family Guy. Jeez, could you guys try and keep the characters looking somewhat similar? This guy doesn't even look like Chris. What was I saying? The story is pretty okay. It does a good job of keeping me invested as a definite step up from the past games. I just found it sorta to be It has its strong points, and it has its more forgettable moments. The characters are a mix of totally fine to just confusing. The vocal performances range from excellent to just awkward. Ethan sounds like a real person.
Just let them both go. What do you need them for?
Mia is fine. Jack and Marguerite are okay. I mean, she calls you a cocksucker, and that's an automatic pass in my book. And Lucas is just this weird level of I can't tell if his performance is super good or fucking terrible. The jury is still out. Speaking of cheese, there's a few good moments of just dumb things throughout the game. A few silly bits of dialogue that had me chortle.
What the fuck? Well, that's special.
I mean, one of the health items is fucking steroids.
Kids, don't do the steroids or you'll get the lip dick and die.
I don't know about anyone else, but I actually found the cheese level a bit overboard. Maybe it's just me, but some things were so ridiculous. Mainly the fucking car garage part. It was around the second half of my second playthrough I started to realize that I wasn't loving it as much as I did the first time around. I think most of it is due to just picking up on the small details. Now, huge disclaimer, I still really liked Resident Evil 7, but it was lacking in a few areas. The monster design is just fucking lame. This is one of the big things that I think really killed most of the horror for me. The game has this great, greasy, thick atmosphere of this Louisiana bayou outhouse, but I was about as scared as I was playing any other modern horror game. I wasn't. Partly because there's only 4 enemies. Black monster with armored arm, black monster that crawls and is fast, and black monster that pukes. I don't know how else to put it, but the monsters are just very safe, I guess. Not a lot was put forth other than it's an ambiguous black thing. Quick, grab your cash! No, it's not because it's not zombies, although I will say, having zombies would have really sweetened the deal. Moving on from zombies in Resident Evil feels rough, but I think it's necessary. Zombies are so trite that even the series that helped popularize them can't even use them without it feeling burned out. The next thing that really shoved a broken twig in my dick hole was the pointless illusion of the multiple endings. The endings are a fucking tease. It feels like such a kick in the dick, especially coming from the demo with 5 endings and actual specific steps to achieve them. Now it's just this big fuck you giving you the illusion of a different ending. Pick your wife? Oh, you're a normal person with emotions? Pick Zoe? What are you, some emotional numb sociopath? Now you get the bad ending. The worst part is they don't even play out differently. I would have been fine with just one ending, but they're the ones that gave me hope of multiple endings with something different. Don't blame me. There's also this weird New Game Plus that isn't really New Game Plus. You get a few special items that carry over, like a better handgun, some glasses that show you everything, and some coins to make the game even easier, but you can't keep your buffs you got previously. Half the fun of multiple playthroughs are being so OP that beaming your eyes at the enemies fucks them into submission. There's also a massive deficit in post-game content. I get they were going for Spook-a-Doop, but I would have loved to have seen a Mercenaries mode at the least. Alternate costumes? Anything?
This just in. Capcom needs to milk our tits harder and lock all the good stuff behind DLC. I fucking love spending money on the rest of the game.
The last thing that irked me was the Madhouse difficulty. For the most part, I think it's great. I mean, you use tapes to save, dude. But it's also a tease because it makes it seem like it's the rebirth mode on Resident Evil Deadly Silence, where every item is redistributed, but it does that for like 2 things. The Scorpion Key and the model and broken shotgun placement. Not only that, the puzzles are exactly the same. Gee, thanks guys. Will I have to wait for the DualShock version before I get the arranged game? Is this all nitpicks? Most definitely. But for me, I found it ultimately pulled the game down some. Enough of being a negative Nancy though. Let's recap. The gameplay is really what pulls through here. Just pure, unadulterated survival horror in the flesh. Like, you know how Resident Evil 1 was originally supposed to be a first-person shooter, but the PS1 couldn't handle it at the time? Well, this feels like what the original game might have been had it been a first-person shooter, minus, you know, the obvious shit. The story and characters are totally acceptable and for the most part keeps your attention. Pacing, again, is just excellent. Really, there's only a few things that really kind of put a dent in an overall great game. It's a survival horror game I think most everyone can enjoy, seeing as the control scheme isn't tank, and it's not too hard once you kind of figure out the way of the road, bubs. The DLC is really shitty, as in it's good, but it's like, it feels like it's just cut from the game. But people literally can't not buy DLC, so this cycle will never end. It'll continue forever. Thank you. For fans new and old, I think this will really hit the spot. For me, it's almost cathartic in a way because not only is it a good Resident Evil game, but it's also a really good survival horror game. Now, excluding Resident Evil 2 Remake, I think moving away from the fixed camera angles is a fine change. Change is necessary. You can't stagnate on the past for forever. Something's got to be different. And I think this is definitely a good step in the right direction. Now, if we're talking price, the whole DLC thing kind of just fucks me in a way that I don't like being fucked. So, what I'm going to say is, as much as, you know, I want to see Capcom get the message that this is the right direction to go, I think $40 base game is about the right price for me. So, anyway, until next time, we get to something else. I don't know. Tell me anything about the boy. Is a fucking fuck yeah! Droid, you're ruining the tape. Ed, who's at me? Thor just sent me a funny tweet. And I'm a pretty good looking guy.